This show is listener supported. You can join us and help our show grow to support more adoptees by going to adopteeson.com/partner. You're listening to Adoptees On, the podcast where adoptees discuss the adoption experience. I'm your host, Haley Radke, and this is a special episode in our Healing series where I interview therapists who are also adoptees themselves so they know from personal experience what it feels like to be an adoptee. Today, we are talking about reunion. Let's listen in. I'm so pleased to welcome back to Adoptees On, Lesli Johnson. Hi, Lesli.
Hi, thank you.
So excited to talk to you. I know you've got tons of stuff going on, and in your practice, you are seeing so many different things come into your office every day, mostly connected to adoption, I'm assuming at this point.
A lot of adoption, a lot of trauma stuff, but yes, a good portion of my work now is with the adoption and foster care community.
Okay. So you sent me a note a little while ago saying that you were seeing something pretty regularly and wanted to kind of talk us through a little bit. Why don't you go ahead and tell us the thing that you keep seeing pop up and why you think it's important for us to talk about it?
Okay, sure. So it's something that I've thought about quite regularly, and in the last several months, maybe even a year or two, but it's become more frequent. And it came up in the last teen group that I facilitate. So it's a teen group of adoptees, and they were talking about who knew their biological parents or knew some of their biological relatives and who didn't, and age kept coming up. And one participant said, what's with this 18? My parents keep saying at 18, we'll help you search. And I think that a lot of us have even heard that, even my parents didn't say that, but I know a lot of other adoptees whose parents said, when you're 18, we'll help you search. And it got me to thinking more and more, who did decide on that number? And you and I were talking before we started recording, but, it feels like another one of those bits of information that someone at some point wrote down and that everyone has adhered to. And really, as adoptees, what we're trying to do now, I think, is sort of break down some of this arbitrary information and look at it on an individual basis and see where we can fill in some information so that kids don't have to be sitting in math class wondering, I wonder if my birth mom would recognize me if she saw me. I wonder if I have siblings. I wonder if my birth parents are even alive. So it just got me to thinking about why 18, and I've certainly have families in my practice that I'm working with who are helping their kids find information at a much earlier age.
So this is interesting to me because, if you look at what the cultural view of adoption right now, it's like, well, adoption, it's like, well, it's either international or it's open. Like, what is there? What's search? What's reunion? What are you talking about for young people? Are you talking about cases that's like still closed adoptions or?
I am.
Okay.
Because I believe that as a society, we are moving towards more openness in adoption. And, we've definitely, I've talked before, the varying degrees of openness, but there are still a lot of parents who I wouldn't call them completely closed adoptions. They're sharing information, on paper with their kids, but there are a lot of young kids who want to meet their siblings, meet their biological relatives, and adoptive parents are often filled with a lot of different questions, a lot of their own anxieties about that, and wanting to know how to navigate that process.
Okay, this is interesting. Before we talk about actually, like, should we do this? Should we not? You see adoptive parents as clients, yeah?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can tell us, like, pull back the curtain. An adoptive parent comes to see you and says, my child is asking questions and this is making me feel like what?
So what's the concern?
Yeah, the adoptive parent, because as adult adoptees, a lot of us are looking at the situation and thinking, I mean, of course we want connection with our, family of origin, and we want, genetic mirroring sooner, and all of those kinds of things. So what's in an adoptive parent's head when we're bringing that question to them?
Well, I think it's a lot of anxiety. I think it's a lot of what I'm not good enough, or what aren't I doing or saying that they need more. I think a lot of it depends too on how much work adoptive parents have done, how much of their own personal work that they've done as it relates to adoption. And, I think the threatened that, that they're going to lose their child somehow, or that their child's going to like their biological relatives more. I think a lot of insecurity and wondering how it's going to affect their relationship with their child.
Okay, thank you. So a kid is asking these questions, and the adoptive parent comes to you either in their own session, or, you're having this conversation with the family. What goes through your mind? Are you, like, we've already said 18 is kind of this arbitrary number. This is a big question. What should reunion like? When should it happen? When?
I just don't even think, I really don't think I think it's an individual case by case situation. And again, reunion can look like a lot of different things too. So I think that if we're always looking at it from the adopted person's or child's perspective and what's in the best interest for the child, I encourage parents, once I kind of normalize, that their child's curiosity and questions and desires, like that's a real normal thing. And I really try to help adoptive parents be their child's best advocate. So, with all the information kids can get, even young kids can get on social media. And I've seen this all too often in my office, where kids will find out a lot of things about their biology. They'll find out that they have brothers, sisters, cousins, and they're getting that information from, Instagram or Facebook, rather than getting it from their parents who could actually help them process some of the information. So once I normalize that their child's curiosities, I suggest, what can you share and what do you know? And I'm working with a family right now that they have a 7-year-old, and she wants to meet her biological siblings and her biological mom. And it's going to be a slow process, and it's, we're going to make sure that it's safe. And I don't even mean physically safe, but of course that's something to take into consideration, but psychologically safe, because is this person able to maintain a relationship? Is this a person, is the biological parent or the biological family, are they going to be reliable to stay in their child's life? So it's different for everyone, but it frees up can free up a lot of headspace for a child or a teenager who's thinking about this all of the time.
Well, and this is like peak identity formation time, right? So you're already thinking about that.
Exactly.
I mean, so say I'm the teenage adoptee. What is something that I could say to my adoptive parents to sort of open the door, to let them know I kind of want to know more information. I might want to search. I need your help with this, versus, looking through file folders when they're away and
right.
Doing your own Instagram stalking.
Which has happened. I was recently invited to speak at a school here in Los Angeles, and it's kind of an exceptional school in that they have a large population of adoptees, and they started a group. Two teen adoptees started a group where they meet every week at lunchtime, and they screen movies and all this really cool stuff around supporting each other with regard to adoption. And they told their advisor, we would like our parents to have some kind of group like this. And so the advisor, who was also coincidentally was adopted, invited me to come to speak to this group of parents. And I talked about this. I talked about openness and sharing information. And one of the parents, she was really, she had told her child that the age 18. And I think what happened was that it made the child go behind, just like what you said, go behind the parents' back. And so I guess to answer your question of what can an adopted person say to their parents, I still wish it would be, why is the onus on the adoptee? But that's the way it is. So I guess it would be just approaching their parent and say, I think about this all the time. It would really be helpful if you could help me search before I go to college, search while I can get your support when I'm still in, when I'm your emotional support, and have you help me navigate this while I'm still living at home.
When you say that the onus still feels like it's on the adoptee, because it often is, even in asking that question, I'm thinking like, okay, and we still have to protect their feelings. And, you kind of gave us that insight, like, what does it look like when the adoptive parent comes to see you? And what are their fears? And so this is all just really tricky conversations.
It's tricky. And I guess when you were just saying that, I thought to myself, okay, how can I word this? Exactly what you're saying. Like, how can I word this in the right way so that they know I'm not, that I love them. I love them, but I really, really I'm really curious about this. And that's, that's where there still has to be so much work done, right?
Well, I appreciate having this conversation with you, because I think back to, I was born in the 80s, right? And we weren't really having these conversations with our adoptive parents. I think a lot of our adoptive parents were kind of trained to just be like, just pretend like they're totally yours and this is not really a thing. And then, they won't need to look. And it was all kind of swept under the rug. So just the fact that there's already, people coming to see you, not necessarily because their child is in crisis of some sort, but just to get tools. And, I think that's such a big deal that already these conversations are opening up more.
Yes, I agree with you. And I mean that I feel like that's the way we're progressing in terms of just more openness in general, and whether that be openness in the family talking about it, openness in helping kids find out their information. Yeah, that adoptive parents can be so useful when they act as their child's advocates.
So one thing that I really appreciate about being in reunion with my dad right now is that it happened before I had children of my own. So my kids just have always had my bio dad in their life. They just don't even know any different. And so, looking at it from, my kids' frame of mind, and then looking at, a young adopted person, of course, safety is number one. I'm putting that on the list, but what are your ideas about, is sooner better? I know that's all individual tailored to each situation, but if you had some kind of sweeping themes you could kind of give us about pros of reunion as a younger adopted person.
Well, I do think it's a case by case, and exploring what's happening presently that the adopted person or the adopted child is wanting to know. And is it related to, something that's not just, I just want to know this information, or I'm just curious about it. And again, just exploring that, and sharing. What would it be like? I don't know if you can answer this, but I think to myself, what would it have been like for me if I didn't, think that my lunch lady could be my birth mother, or think that my mom's best friend might have been, because she had a lot of kids, and maybe she knew that my mom couldn't have biological children. So she maybe just gave one of her kids to my mom. I mean, what would it have been like to not have to think about that, or not, wonder if my birth parents were going to return and take me home with them. So again, it's openness, and in some cases that means reunion.
And it also though can just be having a name, right? To take them out of the, Betty Jean Lifton like out of the ghost kingdom into reality.
Exactly. And that was something I emphasize when I work with adoptive parents is, and I've been saying birth mother or the birth mother, first parents, but use their name. Like when you're talking about your child's biological parent or relative or sibling, use their name, make them a real person. I think that also helps parents contextualize and I don't know, be more accepting that it's not that person or her or the birth mother. To me, that feels so, I don't know what the word is. It feels so inhumane, maybe.
I'm trying to think. I can't help you. It's depersonalizing. It's like they're the stork, the fairy. Like it's very,
right.
Yeah.
Right. It's depersonalizing. Mm-hmm. A couple of years ago, I was working with a teenager and his family, and he found that he had several siblings. He found them on social media, and his parents were very open. They knew that he was looking, and they were helping him look. And because they had done their own work, they weren't threatened when he said, I want to meet them. They contacted some of the in particular, he wanted to meet two of his brothers or his half brothers. And, the parents contacted their parents and, made sure that it was, again, in everyone's best interest, and set up the meetings and drove, a couple states away to have their kids meet each other. And the result of that was profound on my client. It was profound because he didn't have to imagine these people anymore. He didn't have to imagine his siblings. He was able to see them and talk to them and see someone that looked like him.
Going back to the idea that reunion looks like a lot of different ways. And, I recently had Dr. Sue Green on the podcast, and she was talking about how they don't call it search and reunion through the organization she's a part of, Vanish. They call it search and contact because you don't know what is going to happen at that point of contact. You don't know if there's actually going to be a reunion.
Yes.
So do you have any other thoughts on that? Like, not necessarily looking for a reunion, perhaps, when you're taking it slow, as you said with this other client of yours, what does a slow reunion, what does slow contact look like? What is a really healthy look at this for a young person to be going through?
Well, I think part of it can even just be conversation. So if a young child is talking about wanting to meet, when is he going to be able to meet his biological mom? And parents might just be able to open the conversation. Well, if what would you like her to know about you? What would you like? What would you like to share? What would you like to ask her? So it might just start there. So is that a search? No, but it's parents expressing a curiosity about their child's experience. If parents have information, and again, they've done their work and deem that it maybe isn't a bad idea or is maybe even a good idea, it might start with writing letters back and forth or writing emails back and forth. And that might go on. Again, short, just kind of get to know you. And again, progressing. If again, the child is continuously asking for that. It's really using the child as the barometer, I think.
Any other sort of best practices when you're looking at, a younger person asking for information from their adoptive parents versus having them seek it out on their own?
Well, I think as a general rule, like I said, it's sharing what parents know in an age appropriate way. So we're not going to talk about concepts that, we're not going to talk about different concepts that a 7-year-old might not understand. And if after parents assess, is this feasible? Let's have them contact biological family first, get to know them a little bit, then start very slowly. And again, parents are making sure that members of the biological family are going to be able to show up. Are they going to be reliable? Are they going to be consistent? Because again, we know as adoptees, that's what we need in our lives. And if we've already endured one separation or in some cases more than one, if we've been in foster care, we need our parents to help make sure that doesn't happen again, especially when we're young. But if it's okay to do so, start slow, exchange letters. Sometimes that's all younger kids need, is just to know that their first parents are okay, or that their biological relatives are okay.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's a good thought. Okay, as we wrap up, I'm sitting here as an adult adoptee and listening to this and thinking, man, I don't think I ever would have even thought to bring these questions up, because I just literally did not think it was possible to have a reunion. Like I was just the daydreaming, imagining kid about picturing what my mother might have been like, who she was, when was she going to come take me away from the parents that would ground me,
Right. Yeah.
But now as an adult and thinking about maybe some of these conversations could have been possible. And what would you say to someone like me who maybe, do I want to go back and have a conversation with my adoptive parents and say, gee, I wish we could have talked about this? Or I don't know, is there anything like, the word that keeps coming to my mind is like the loose ends, like these loose ends that kind of come apart when I hear a conversation like this, to kind of go back and maybe like heal up some of these things that we weren't able to have when we were, preteen or teenagers thinking about searching or just thinking about reunion.
Right. No, and I grew up in a very similar way that you did. I would have never, ever thought to bring up, the idea of searching or information, giving me information. Do you have information? It wouldn't, I can only imagine it would have gone more poorly when I was young than when I actually did bring it up when I was, in my 30s, and it didn't go well. But I guess what I kind of think about is I imagine what would it have been like, and again, we can't go back in time and change things, but I think it maybe can provide some, like what we're talking about now maybe it could provide some validation to all of the adoptees out there who were thinking about their circumstances of their relinquishment or their separation from their biological family while they were trying to study for a history test. And it was, interfering in their ability to retain information, or that they were, wondering while they're, walking around in a crowd if one of their siblings might recognize them, or if their birth parents were alive or dead. I think maybe it can just provide some validation that all of that is really, really, really normal, and that it can be different for young adoptees today.
Well, and I want to give credit especially to, listeners that have been outspoken in their experiences as an adopted person, because without people like you speaking up and saying we wish we would have had these things, and saying we needed therapy, and saying our true feelings about our adoption experience, without that, this door wouldn't have been opened for adopted children right now to be having these conversations. So, High fives to those of you who have been putting it out there.
Well, and high five to you. As I always say when I talk with you, I'm so amazed by your work and the awareness, support, and information that you're providing just through the podcast.
Thank you so much. I don't want to let you go without giving you an opportunity to share, because I know you've got lots of support for adult adoptees and teen adoptees. And as we said, supporting other members of the adoption constellation. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you've got coming up?
Sure. Thank you. I recently launched a new website / program. It's www.askadoption.com. And I am offering virtual support groups for adult adoptees, teen adoptees, adoptive parents, and first parents. I'm currently in a series right now of groups. So new ones will begin in early January. There's also an opportunity I'm going to be adding some courses that parents can take, adult adoptees can take, one-on-one coaching sessions, lots of stuff.
That's so exciting. And you said virtual, so it doesn't matter where you are.
It doesn't matter where you are.
I love that.
Cool.
Up in Canada, it's a little bit far away from all the very, very fun adoptee stuff that's happening down there. Okay. Thank you so much, Lesli, for your time today. And can you just remind us one more time where we can connect with you online?
Absolutely. So the site I just mentioned is askadoption.com. My other website is yourmindfulbrain.com. I'm on Instagram at askadoption and Your Mindful Brain, and Twitter at Lesli A. Johnson.
Perfect. Thank you. I am so thankful. I keep saying this. I'm so thankful for the adoptee therapists that come on the show and share their expertise with us. I mean, truly, what greater resource can we have than, people that actually know what it feels like to be adopted and who are working with other adoptees and actually doing this therapy work, the hard work, digging in with them. My goodness, I just find it such a goldmine. I hope that no matter what your circumstances are, that you found something interesting and helpful from today's episode. I always love talking with Lesli. She is just a real gem. And I'm just so thankful for the adoptees who have signed up to become therapists because, man, do we need them, hey? Something else I'm thankful for, of course, is my monthly supporters. You guys, I wouldn't be able to do the show without you, so thank you so much. If you want to join them and make sure Adoptees On keeps going and keeps growing and keeps helping adoptees around the world, go to adopteeson.com/partner. And a totally free way you can help support the show is just by telling one person about it. Just one person. Tell them your favorite episode, how it's helped you, or tell them the episode that made you mad and you really just want to talk about it and get it all out, or tell them about the episode you thought was really funny. Is there a funny episode? I don't know. Anyway, I think sharing the show is just one of the best ways you can help independent podcasters. I'm never going to chart on iTunes. Your reviews there are kind and they give other listeners validation that this show is worth listening to, but it's not going to help me hit number one because I'm too niche for that. But sharing the show with just one person, that is huge bonus. Thank you so much for listening. Let's talk again next Friday.